Ikeachodo. I'm representing Bracelet Church, and today I'll be performing my short sermon referencing John chapter 8, verses 2 to 12. Today, we're going to look at one of the most inspirational, life-changing I am statements that Jesus ever made. John chapter 8, verse 12 reads, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but he will have the light of life." If you follow Jesus, you will never walk in darkness, which is a good thing because darkness is scary. How many of you, as a kid, you were afraid of the dark? That verse actually came after one of the greatest grace book stories in the entire Bible. In fact, some of you may be familiar with this story that's known as the woman caught in adultery. It was right after this story that Jesus made his I am statement. I am the light of the world. And so, what I want to do today is, I want to break down that story of the woman caught in adultery that leads into this life-changing statement. John chapter 8, verses 2 to 4 read, "As Jesus appeared again in the temple courts where all people gathered around him, he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, 'Teacher, we caught this woman in the act of adultery.'" Without any shadow of a doubt, this is the darkest, most shame-filled, humiliating moments of her life as they asked him, should we stone her like the law says? They continue in verses 5 to 6, which read, "In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing Jesus. But Jesus bent down and started to run on the ground and scream. This is crazy. They're like, "Jesus, do we stone her or do we not?" And what does he do? He ignores them. Doesn't answer the question. Instead, he kneels down and starts writing in the sand or writing in the dirt something with his finger. Verse 7 reads, "When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, 'Let any one of you who is without sin pick up a rock, and you be the first to throw a stone at her.'" Jesus is going after something that's really important. These judgmental, arrogant people have the same problem that all of us have at one point or another. And that it's incredibly easy to see others' sins and overlook our own sins in the mirror. John chapter 8, verses 8 through 11 read, "He stooped down and wrote on the ground. At this, those who heard began to go away one at a time, the older ones first, until only Jesus was left with the woman still standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, 'Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?' 'No one,' said. 'Then neither do I condemn you.'" Broken in shame, in the darkest moment of her life, Jesus looked at this broken woman and spoke the most grace-filled, love-laced words in history. "Then neither do I condemn you." When you are in Christ Jesus, you need to understand that there is no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. His grace changes everything. You are not what you did, you are not what you say you are, and you are who God says you are. And because of his grace, if you are in Christ, there is no condemnation. So what does Jesus do with this woman? The same thing he does with us. He looks at her in verse 11. He had just said to her, "Neither do I condemn you." And then what does he say? "Go now," he declares, "go now and leave your life of sin." He was saying, you don't have to live in darkness. You can be different. You don't have to hurt the way you were hurting. You don't have to live in the shame you're living. You don't have to live in the self-condemnation and the self-hatred of your own bad decisions. You can be different. Go now and sin no more. This brings us back to the very first verse we read. It says, when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me would never walk in darkness, because they will have the light of life." When Jesus looked at her and he said, "Neither do I condemn you," at that moment, he was no longer the light of the world. He actually became the light of her world. And I'm here to tell you today that Jesus can be the light of your world too. Thank you.